Hello, my friends. Sorry I'm a day late on this, but here I am, and we're here talking about the Iowa caucus results. Now, I've been saving up a lot of my content regarding the Democratic Party and the Democratic nomination race for basically after Trump wins 2020, because let's be honest, Trump's probably going to win 2020. Regardless of what you think of him, the Democrats have been in such a sorry state basically since Trump beat Hillary in 2016. There is no way they're actually going to unite behind a candidate or field anybody possible of beating Trump at this point. So I have this script sitting around called The Collapse of the Democratic Party that basically will be like an hour-long deep dive into everything they've done wrong in the past 4 years. But then, with the aftermath of the Iowa caucus and the trending of the hashtag #MayorCheat, I knew I had to at least talk about this a little bit. So here's the basic story of the Iowa caucus. As soon as it became clear that Bernie was in the lead and that the media's chosen one, Joe Biden, was in 4th place, suddenly the preliminary polling stopped. Suddenly CNN stopped reporting on it. Suddenly the numbers stopped showing up. And this is actually quite irregular because usually with these kind of races, they keep people updated pretty regularly. You know, CNN likes those views. They want people tuning in to kind of watch the drama of the race unfold as the numbers come in and the districts flip between one candidate or another. But as soon as it became clear that Bernie was the one who was going to win it, suddenly all reporting stops. And when pressed on this, they said it was for quality control. Who the fuck knows what that means? But it seems to have something to do with the fact that the DNC was basically testing out a new app in the Iowa caucus. But of course, because we haven't had enough Saturday morning cartoon villainy floating around this goddamn election, the app in question was made by a company called Shadow. Shadow is partially funded by Pete Buttigieg, or as Styx likes to call him, Booty Judge, which kind of makes sense considering that he's also gay, but that's neither here nor there. But the company has ties to Hillary Clinton. It has ties to George Soros. Of course it does. And as soon as it seems like the anti-establishment candidate in Bernie Sanders is going to win, suddenly the polls stop coming in for quality control purposes. Suddenly those reports that did come in that show Sanders winning, they disappear off the internet. And then, before the whole situation is resolved, Pete Buttigieg declares himself winner on stage. He walks up and he says, despite there's no official results, he's like, Thank you very much. I won Iowa.
So we don't know all the results. But we know by the time it's all said and done, Iowa, you have shocked the nation. Because by all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious.
So of course hashtags like #MayorCheat or Pete Cheats started trending with a whole bunch of various little bits of evidence that just kind of, they don't really show anything on their own, but they kind of piece together to form this fabric. There are stories of volunteers within the DNC noticing various inconsistencies that might be proof of Buttigieg cheating, in fact, outright. There's video of a coin toss, since of course in some smaller precincts you might actually have direct ties when there's not that many votes, and generally you decide them by flipping a coin. Where very clearly the guy looks at the coin, notices what side it landed on, and then flips it to announce a win for Buttigieg.
When you're watching, and then flip it over. Flip it over. Heads. Buttigieg. Heads. Buttigieg.
All right, so Buttigieg will get 3 delegates.
Not even the identity politicians are happy, because I guess they grabbed the 6 black people that happened to be in existence during Buttigieg's speech and put them all in the front to make him look more inclusive. There actually wasn't that many black people there. That's me in the front, on the right of Buttigieg. I was asked 3 times to move away from my friends in order to be placed in pictures. Hashtag tokenism. But of course, for some of these people, it doesn't matter how hard the DNC fucks them, because they will always be loyal. If you are legitimately tweeting the hashtag #MayorCheat, then you are either a Russian operative, a GOP operative, or a useful idiot playing right into Trump and Russia's strategy of dividing the Democratic Party. Any Democrat is 1,000 times better than Trump. Well, maybe it's that the Democratic Party seems to be naturally divided right now. You moron. Like, you have the neo-lib wing, and then you have the radical activist wing, with nothing for the actual moderate centrists of the nation to unite behind. I can't prove it yet. I feel safe in saying that both Bernie 1 and Mayor Cheat are trending because Russian propaganda accounts are amplifying them. Putin's goal is to divide us. Instead, let's stand together, elect Democrats, and sanction his ass out of office. A lot of these people who say, we have to unite behind X, it just so happens that X is their specific political view, because they have no intention of ever uniting behind anything else, so they want everyone to just go their way, I guess. Here's the thing. I'm not a fan of Biden. I'm not a fan of Buttigieg. I'm not even that much of a fan of Sanders, sorry. I used to be until he cucked out to Hillary in 2016. But anyway, most campaigns' internal polling makes their campaign candidate look a bit better than the rest. A bit better than they should be. And that's kind of to be expected. Like, if Bernie's campaign releases polls, Bernie probably looks better in them than the average. So there was one point early in the night where, when the official Iowa caucus results were not being posted, Bernie's campaign was posting results showing him with like this overwhelming lead. And I'm not surprised that those weren't completely accurate. Nothing against Bernie, it's just how these things go. But nonetheless, this is probably the worst case scenario for the Democrats at this point, because not only is there no one candidate to unite behind at this point, regardless of who he is, this was so poorly mismanaged. It is a complete shit show. And there is no way that like the average undecided voter is going to have any kind of faith in the Democrats after this showing. After all of this shady bullshit, if there's somebody who was on the fence thinking whether to go right or left this time around, they're probably just going to say, fuck it, I'll go for Trump. It's the worst case scenario because nobody comes out looking good. The Bernie bros think that Bernie was robbed yet again. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, who knows. But here's the thing, even if Bernie legitimately lost an election, like wasn't the result of some kind of like 2016 Hillary style backroom deal, but Bernie actually lost, there's still going to be a bunch of Bernie fans who just don't accept it. You know, they're going to be like, oh, it's DNC, it's rigged again. Then you have Elizabeth Warren, who's rather unlikable. You have Joe Biden, who seems to have made a new living being one giant fumble. And now you have Pete Buttigieg. And Pete Buttigieg, he was one of the ones that I actually thought had a decent chance at beating Trump. For me, there was Kirsten Gillibrand, there was Tulsi Gabbard, and then there was Pete Buttigieg. Those three probably had the best shot at beating Trump. Sorry, Yang Gang, I just don't think he was viable. But nonetheless, those three were always consistently suppressed by the DNC. And maybe it is the case that Pete's spike is just a natural result of his electability finally bubbling to the surface after, the 9 months of bullshit that have been the Democratic race. But regardless of whether or not Pete stole the race, or if this is just, a poorly managed situation, it doesn't look good on the Democrats. There's no confidence in the party anymore. The way that they're mismanaging things, the way this whole app situation worked out, the way that people are bitterly divided on social media. It was between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie. Now you might be asking, if the DNC was actually going to rig this thing, why would they rig it in favor of Buttigieg? Why wouldn't they rig it in favor of Biden or Warren? Well, on the one hand, if there was an apparatus behind the rigging, it was probably Buttigieg's because he was involved in the Shadow app. But more importantly, even though I believe that Buttigieg could beat Trump, I don't think most people do. I don't think the DNC does at all. I think they're still putting all of their hopes on Biden. And maybe the plan is to siphon away momentum and delegates from Bernie to Buttigieg in states where Biden is obviously not going to win, like Iowa. Maybe the plan is that Buttigieg's influence will cancel out Sanders in those states where Biden can't beat him. So after Biden wins big in those states where he probably will win big, then as soon as the Democratic convention happens, Bernie is kind of shuffled to the side because a lot of his momentum was siphoned away by Buttigieg, who himself they don't believe to be viable, which will basically allow Biden to start gobbling up superdelegates. Basically, I expect this sort of thing to happen in every state where Biden can't beat Bernie. Something's going to come along to basically take little chips and pieces out of Bernie's momentum such that Biden can win the long game. Of course, none of this is going to help them beat Trump, but I guess they're going to go as far as they can. And then it was between Joe Biden and Bernie, and now it's between Pete and Bernie. Who knows where this is going to go, but basically, there doesn't seem to be any way for the Democrats to congeal behind any kind of candidate anymore. And I think the Iowa caucus kind of shows that. It shows that they're like a fundamentally divided party. They're at war with themselves more than they are at war with the Republicans and Trump, despite what some of them might say. And if they were looking to impress an idea that they were in control, sane, rational, electable, if they're looking to give off that impression to the undecided voter, this isn't how you do it. This is how you do the complete opposite of that.